All right, guys, this is Norval Central, and I am back at it again with a video. It has been a very, very, very long time since I have actually recorded a video at this point. I know some of you thought even I might just be vanished from YouTube at this point, but I am back. I'm trying to get more content out there. And what better way to discuss this video unlike trying to do College Football 25, the video game series that everyone has been waiting on? It's been a highly anticipated game series that everyone wants to play. College football fans have been starving for this video game for so long. We haven't had one since NCAA 14, so I know a lot of fans out there are really excited to kind of get the opportunity, especially to play with Florida State. We can go ahead and load out our frustrations on what happened last year with the playoff snub, and the committee actually did get it wrong, but we'll kind of get into that a little bit later. But I want to discuss a couple of players that I actually like using in this game for Florida State, and I think can really be a beneficial piece to what Florida State can bring to the table in 2024 in the actual team. Let's go ahead and start off with the first one. Now, Malik Benson is a wide receiver. He's an 85 overall, 96 speed. I mean, that is incredible, especially considering what he is as a prospect at this point. Coming in from the Alabama Crimson Tide, didn't really do too much, had 162 total yards in receiving, had a touchdown, didn't really do too much. You thought him coming over as a number one JUCO receiver, you thought Florida State was going to be able to kind of get him. Alabama swooped in and was able to get his services. Thought he was going to be a little bit more over there. They kind of used him in more of that slant, screen pass type of deal and just didn't really pan out. But Florida State really thinks he's going to be a focal point in this offense. Of course, there's going to be a lot of guys that Florida State's going to have to depend on, but he's going to be your number one guy, hopefully, at this point. Don't forget about some other guys, too, some other receivers in the room that are veterans, but I definitely think Malik Benson can be that potential of being a number one wide receiver. And I definitely think he's great for NCAA in terms of speed. Another guy, Jalen Brown, guy you don't really think about, was a four-star prospect out of Go Over Prep that Florida State really liked out of high school, went and committed to LSU, signed with LSU, didn't play with LSU the first year. So guess what happens in this day in college football and nowadays you look at when you don't get your opportunities and you find an opportunity elsewhere kind of closer to home, that's where he went. So, of course, he goes to Florida State. He's going to probably be your slot guy after Destin Hill tears his ACL. And now you're looking at Jalen Brown to be a pivotal piece. NCAA football thinks so too as well. Because, I mean, if you get him in the slot and you're a dangerous weapon on NCAA, DJ can sling it with his 97 throw power. And I think he can really be an effective weapon for what Florida State brings to the table, especially not only in college football 25, but also in the 2024 season. Don't count out Jalen Brown as we kind of go through this process with him because I definitely think he can be a weapon for Florida State if they use him correctly. Another guy, Jalen Lucas, a kind of a running back slash hybrid wide receiver. He's going to be kind of all over the place, kind of like a receiving back, kind of like Lawrence Toafili. I think is a really good comparison for him. I know that that's kind of a lazy man's comparison because Lawrence Toafili kind of just does it all. You saw it in the ACC championship where he was just able to dominate Louisville with that direct snap. But I do think that Jalen Lucas can be a guy not only in rushing as well as receiving, but also in the return game. That is efficient, especially coming off of a video game series where you want to have a lot of speed on the outside. I think he can really be beneficial in a lot of people's dynasties. And I think he's going to be a focal point in what Florida State brings to the offense this year as we go along. You're looking at a guy to get for Florida State in terms of special teams. You already know what Mike Norvell loves in special teams. He values that aspect of the game. You know, he thinks that's one of the most important parts to his teams and the construction of what they're bringing to the table. And I think it's kind of the foundation to what Florida State brings in that. So I think it's very beneficial to see what Florida State's going to bring out of him. And I definitely think that this is something that Florida State can kind of lean to as we go forward there. Another guy, Patrick Payton, the highest guy on this team at a 90 overall. He's one of those guys coming off the edge. He finally gets his opportunity to be the lone focal point in that defensive end room. Now, granted, Marvin Jones Jr. is an incredible talent out of Georgia. He didn't play very much with the Bulldogs. Now, he did play in most of his games, but he didn't really have those meaningful snaps. You know, he only had about 3 sacks in his 2-year career at Georgia, was a former 5-star prospect that Florida State fans were absolutely in love with because Shade Tree, his father, was a legendary linebacker at Florida State and played well for Florida State. So a lot of fans have high expectations for Junior, and I think this can be an opportunity for Patrick Payton on one side and then Junior on the other to be an efficient piece and kind of dynamic duo. Don't forget about Lolo Hea as well. I think that's going to be another piece that Florida State's going to have to turn to in their defensive end room. But I definitely think Payton, man, I've had a lot of fun on my dynasty so far with Payton coming off the outside and being able to rush after the passer. getting after those efficient quarterbacks that some of these offenses have. We talk about all the time in NCAA so far in this early part of this video game, and defenses really haven't done so well. It looks like the defenses are kind of lackluster in terms of that. But if you get a guy like Patrick Payton coming off the edge, it could really do benefits for your defense going forward there. Kind of the last guy I want to talk about, and I think this is the guy that you can kind of move all around the defense, but it's Shaheem Brown. I think this is a guy at the safety position can kind of move down in that linebacker role, can kind of rush the passer off those safety blitzes. I think he's an efficient piece, especially when you got Akeem Dent that's coming and leaving to the NFL at this point. You're trying to find that quarterback of the defense. I definitely think he's going to be your piece, especially when the deep ball, especially in NCAA with these fast receivers and these go routes and everything else, he's going to have to monitor that as we go forward there. And I definitely think that he could be a focal point for Adam Fuller's defense as he goes forward there, because I know that there's going to be like Renardo Green and Jerrion Jones and Akeem Dent that are missing from the secondary. Now you're having to replace those pieces and actually have to fill those pieces in with talent. It happens every single season. College football is prone to do that, especially with the NFL, the transfer portal, people graduating. It happens. But Florida State's got to do a great job in terms of being able to replicate that defensive production. And I definitely think that they can be able to do that as they go forward there. But I want to let you know in the comments what are kind of your 3 players that you think are going to be really, really special for NCAA football this year as we go through, because the ratings are not really set in stone. They're going to continue to progress as those guys get better and better. I think Florida State's going to have a really good team in NCAA, and they're going to have a great team on the field in 2024. Let's go ahead and try to see if we can get this video up to 100 likes if we can, and I'll go ahead and try to drop as many content as I can as we come closer and closer to the season. We're about a little bit over a month at this point, and it's kind of the dog days of summer, but we're almost at fall camp. We're getting closer and closer as we get that week 0 competition against Georgia Tech. We're going to let Kurt Herbstreit have it on College Game Day, and I'm super excited to see what Florida State can do this season. But in the meantime, let's go ahead and keep playing our College Football 25 video game. And I hope each and every one of you have a great rest of the day. And as always, go Noles.